Okay, quick to answer. So SVGs are an interesting scalable vector graphics. They're an interesting existence. And they come from a lot of the design companies now and some of the pattern companies. And if you are a Kimberbell fill in the blank person, I actually found the SVGs under the instructions for the sewing, but they weren't included under the instructions for the embroidery, which I thought was confusing. And so I sent them out to all of our customers. There are SVGs in the dealer exclusives. It depends upon which dealer exclusive we're looking at, but we can absolutely take a closer look at those books. Okay, so back to the machine. I'm going to shut up now, Teresa.
Okay, we go. All right. So let's go. We're up here. Where you lost me?
Oh, we're here, top left.
Oh, okay.
Go back to the regular view, speaker view. There you go.
Interconnections unstable.
If we go down, just hang out here. Every so often the internet is funky in the store and it freezes, but we will come right back if it bumps us out.
Okay. So we're at our home screen now, and we're going to talk about the built-in patterns. So if we go here, we come to this screen. These are all different categories of patterns that are built into your machine. The first one is the shapes, and you can see all these different shapes that are available. Let's scroll through. If you go on to the Brothers support site, you can actually print out or download all of the built-in patterns so that you have them if you want to know what is in here without having to go through each page to see if there's something you're looking for. But this is our first one. This is the shapes. All right. Then we go here and we have all of these icons, and we can click on each one of these and it'll take us to more pages of cut files, drawing files, cut files, whatever you'd like to do. Again, we have just one page. Animals, we have several pages. Okay, so that's the idea there. We have some tags and frames. Okay, all of those. We have these. I believe a lot of people use these for scrapbooking type things, little frames for pictures. All right.
And depending upon which model you have, you may not have everything that we are showing you.
Right. They vary by model as far as what the special icons and what's behind them. We can scroll down to another page. And this page, we have more. We have envelopes, different templates for envelopes. Little, like little clip things for your papers. We have geometrics. We can alter. Oops. Take that back. And here's some nice lacy things, intricate designs. Okay. And then project, a couple of projects here. And all right, go back up. And let's see. Bunny, doesn't this one have the quilt patterns in it?
Hang on. Go back. Go back. Go to the right.
Oh, this way.
I'll for you to reason the boss. Keep going. Okay. No, pattern. Arrow down. Yeah, they're there. Somebody.
Where did they come from?
Just didn't arrow down on that page.
Oh, sorry. Okay, yes, all right, because we were on the icons. Okay, here, it's late. It's been a long day. Disney characters. Then we have words, little phrases here, different things. These are all ready to cut. We also have borders here. Use. We have alphabets, a couple pages of those. Then we scroll down and we come to frames, more letters, quilt patterns, and there's more. So when you're going through your pattern pages, it doesn't hurt to just touch on another icon and see what's available because you may get another page. Okay, back. Oops. All right, so we have these. These are kind of fun. Okay. And then we have stencils. Do different stencils. Pages of those, some frames, some borders. These are nice for the roll feeder. You could actually do large borders for walls or something like that. Okay, so here's our appliques. There we go. And these designs, you can bring them in. They don't have to be quilt patterns. You can use them as cut files to applique pieces. And we have some birthdays. Okay. All right. So now let's go here. All right. So we're going to go into pattern and we're going to select the shape. I'm going to put a heart and that brings up our next screen. So there's our heart right there in the middle. On this page, we can adjust the size of the heart proportionally. Doing that. Or if we wanted to make an independent change, we hit this icon here and we could change the width and the height would remain the same. Okay. So we can decide the number of hearts that we want to have, or we could do a percentage. We have a tool icon here. Takes us back to our pattern interval and all of that. But we've already set the size of the mat, so we're good. So we can say set, and there's our 4 hearts on our mat. This is a representation of our mat. Now, if we wanted to add something else, we could go back. We could say, I don't know, let's add, let's see. And then we'll keep it the same size and we'll just make one of those. Okay. Now, if we want to edit these, we can zoom 200%, move the screen up, down, side to side. There we go. Up, 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 up. Okay. Then we can move the highlighted design where we'd like on the mat. Okay. We can raise the zoom. You can go either 200 or 400%, whatever is the best for what you're doing. Okay, then we'll go back. Zoom is done. All right, this would take us back Right. Now, if I did not, we could select these one at a time by hitting this one box, these arrows. If we wanted to select them all, we would go here and we would say select by framing. We can frame what we want to cut, or we can go to this and that will select all 5 shapes. Okay.
Okay, hang on a second. So, yep, it's hard to see the camera. We've tried different angles before, and it's got a lot to do with the cameras and just being able to project screens. And that's part of what we were doing with this, was trying to figure out how to get you guys visible. If you think this is bad, I have to tell you that the earlier class was much worse, because that camera picks up. Here we go again. Earlier, the camera was picking up the black frame around the screen on the earlier models. So that's about the best that we're going to get with our current camera information. There isn't currently anything on the mat. There is on screen. The only other thing I could do is try and pop another set of lights off, but that leaves us completely in the dark in the room.
That's more reflection.
Yep, and that doesn't make it any better.
That's better.
Is that better?
Yeah.
More light is better on this one. Who knew? Okay. Give that a try.
Okay, so we want to go a little slower on selecting the buttons. Okay. All right. So let's see. All right, let's go back. This arrow, we wanted to select just one. We're going to use this arrow. And we can step through all the shapes on the mat and select a single. If we wanted to select all of the shapes on the mat, we would go to the 3 boxes. And we would say select either by framing, unselect that guy, framing the shapes using the arrows to squeeze in the frame. This is helpful. If I wanted to just cut out this little sunburst thing here, I could just frame that and eliminate the rest of the things by framing. Okay, that's a good use of the framing. If I wanted to select everything, I would go to this icon, and that will then highlight all of the shapes on the screen. Then we would say, okay. Now that we've got these all selected, we can further edit, object edit, and now we have this icon, which is our group icon. So you see what happened was the 4 or the 5 individual shapes now have one single red box around the entire group. That means that that is one unit now. If I were to send it to cut, it would cut 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shapes. If I only had one highlighted, it would only cut that one shape. To ungroup, we go back over, ungroup. Now I have my 5 individuals. If I wanted to take, let's see, 2 of these hearts, let me go back. Okay, let's edit. All right. If we had 2 patterns overlapping, let's go back. So we move this one up here. We have two hearts overlapping. Then we can go, oopsies, wrong screen, sorry. All right, these guys, okay. Nope. Nope. See, sometimes you just have to play with the buttons. All right. All right, this position would give you the maximum amount of cut space for your shapes. If you didn't care which direction the hearts were going on your fabric or your printed paper, whatever, you just wanted to get the maximum amount of space cut out. This is for this icon, okay? If you needed to have your hearts going a certain direction or lined up, then you would use the second icon and it places them more regular on your mat. If you needed to have everything going one direction, you can do that with the last icon, and that puts all of your hearts going the same direction along with your starburst. Okay, let's see, that just goes back to that. Okay, now, all right, this icon is to scan in whatever material you're going to cut on. All right, so say you were fussy cutting and you had a piece of fabric on your mat and you wanted to cut out a certain area, cut the heart in a certain piece of the fabric. You would scan that in and then adjust it so that the heart was located exactly on that spot on your mat. Keep going back to that. Okay. Let's see. So at this point, let's see, trash cans. If you wanted to delete something, we can go to the trash can and that will delete it. If we wanted to, I guess we can't do, all right, you can come over here. We can change the height and the width. We can come here and add additional pieces of that heart that's highlighted. We can come here, we can rotate it by degrees, either direction. This is to add your seam allowance. We talked about that, where you can make it anywhere from 1/4 to 5/8 of an inch. So if you wanted a seam allowance when you were cutting, you would turn this on for the amount that you would like.
I'm also going to interject here and just say, as you work with the scan and cut, there are 3 different things that people think are the same thing. A seam allowance, resizing, and the offset functionality, which is coming up further. They are not quite the same thing. So depending upon what you're doing, you want to use one versus the other. The other thing that the seam allowance does is it will give you a cut line and a draw line. So that if you want to draw where the actual stitching needs to be, that's great for helping people learn, beginning sewing techniques. Sorry.
That's okay. Nope.
It's something that sometimes we forget.
Okay, so then our next button over is our flip. You would use this if we wanted to rotate or flip.
Mirror image.
Mirror image, yes, thank you. You use that a lot for heat transfer. Otherwise, your Merry Christmas comes out backwards. Asks me how I know. Okay, here's our fill pattern so that we could actually fill the hearts like we talked about before with the line spacing. We could use that. And then, whoops, okay. All right, this one, if we wanted to add an additional line, we had talked about that in the beginning. And this icon is the other piece that Bunny was talking about. Let me go back here and bring this guy down. Oops, I'm pushing there. Okay, this is the offset distance. The default is 0.06. This will actually, can change this. I change it to 0.10. Well, let's make it more so you can maybe see it.
Nope.
Nope. All right. And then that actually puts an offset around the heart. And it just moved over. It's helpful.
Sorry.
It's helpful if you were cutting out pattern paper or stickers. Let me see my sample.
I can tell you what I use offset for in
What
the
do you
meantime.
use offset for?
So I use the offset with my embroidery files if I have an applique, because sometimes the shape is not quite where we want it to be.
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't catch with the tack down stitch. I'm going to just real quick test a different camera to see if we can get you guys a slightly better view. Just bear with us. We knew earlier it was not the happiest camera.
Okay.
No, that's worse.
Yep.
We love technology, right? Well, maybe.
That's better, Bunny.
Okay. Yeah, I heard somebody unmuting there.
Betty Ann.
I know your voice. You don't need to tell me who you are. Hang on,
Okay.
I'm gonna try one more piece. Nope. Okay. Cameras are auto setting. But okay, that may be a little bit better.
Okay.
Yes,
Here's a sample piece. This is one that I use a pattern, the leaf pattern that's built in, and I use my drawing tool. And the leaf were the dark line, that was the drawing. And then the offset is the outline around it. So it did not cut on the actual cut line, it cut on the offset of the leaf. Okay, does that make a little more sense?
Okay. And so Ramona, when you cut SVGs, it's sort of, I don't add a seam allowance. This is where I would potentially add an offset, and it depends upon the manufacturer. And no, we can't focus these. You guys, we bought some relatively expensive cameras. Cameras that have like a whole heavy focus system are a couple $1,000s a piece. I am not that shop yet. I will happily be that shop in the future, but I am not that shop yet. But if we can at least see the shapes or a semblance of the shape, I'm a little happier with that. But no, we can't focus these particular. We bought cameras that will focus, but it doesn't work the same way. It's just frustrating and complicated.
Okay. Now I have two hearts overlapping, and that allowed these icons on the bottom to become available for use. They were grayed out before. Okay, so let's see. I'll do these two. The first one we talked about was for group, made the whole, all 5 shapes into one unit. This one is the weld icon. Can't be weld, does not accept, or no overlaps. Okay, so I'd have to get rid of.
Excuse me.
Let me get rid of these guys because that's throwing it off. Back. Lost them. All right. Two hearts. This over. Okay. Edit. Okay, object, now the weld. All right, so it took the two hearts and it welded them together. It took the line that crisscrossed between the two, it deleted that. Once you weld a pattern, it's irreversible. That's the way the pattern's going to be. So if you say, okay, those two hearts are going to be interconnected. So that's the weld feature. This last icon is to do an alignment. You can decide, line them up, whichever way you'd like, so that they're all even or however you're going to do it. Go back to my other one. And we're back to that one. Okay. Okay. And the bottom tool just goes back to, this is where we would go if we needed to change our background. We would use the tool icon and I could change my background, but it doesn't do anything for us here. Okay. This allows you to move your pieces. Okay. That returns it to the original last step. Okay. Now, if we wanted to go in and add something else, we can come back. We can grab, you know, let's do an apple. Okay. Now, the apple comes in with 3 pieces because we've got the green stem, the red apple, and then the outline of the entire piece. So in order to put this on our mat, we would touch the first, say, okay, and I'm not going to change it, leave that. So there's our stem there. Then go back, add, there's the apple, okay, set, there's the second part, and add, there's the outline, okay, set, and that brings it in. So we've got the outline of the apple itself, and the stem. Okay, so we brought in all 3 pieces instead of just one pattern. Okay, now, let's go back to phone. Okay, when it says cancel all patterns, that's only canceling the patterns that are on your screen. It does not cancel the patterns that are in your machine. It's just what is on the screen itself. All right, so let's go. We're going to load our mat. We're going to talk about the mat a little bit. And let's do the hearts again. And we'll make them.
Hang on just a second. We have some questions. So is there anything from Brother that explains the icon, the manuals, on the link that we sent with where the updates were? The manuals will, you know, tell you what each thing is.
Yes.
What it is doesn't always mean that it explains to you what it does. So what the intent of this class is to just give you kind of a basic, here's where the tools are concept, without as much application of them as of quite yet. We will have some ongoing functionality, and Teresa went and she printed out all of her manuals. She's got books over here, ladies and gentlemen. Could you do the apple without the outline? I wasn't here for the apple. Did the apple have an outline?
Yeah, it had an outline of the whole thing. Yeah, you could do just whatever you wanted. If you wanted to just do the apple itself and then the stem, cut the apple red or yellow, whatever, and then cut the stem green, you could just do that. It's probably more if you were looking for maybe a tack down stitch or something with the outline for applique.
So we can, hang on. I'm trying to answer all the questions. Piece of fabric. We've scanned it in. Here's the issue. When we scan in fabric, the outline of each shape is black. So we tried that earlier. We scanned in something for a background. It's just really difficult to get the screens to show up. So that is something that is in process. The cameras, just to be very clear with you all, we bought cameras that are zoomable, but they don't zoom with Zoom. Figure that one out. And there's supposed to be some software coming to make the cameras work a little bit differently. With Cricut machines, when you go to cut, you can select tons of different materials. This is not quite the same because it's the auto blade. So
That's the advantage.
that's the advantage, that you don't have to tell it what fabric you're doing. It kind of adjusts for you. You cannot change the background lighting on the machine. If I tried using my cell phone camera, I could use my cell phone camera, but I can't use all my other cameras. We have 5 cameras plugged in so that you get different views. Start with the unpacking the box. This is Miss, I keep saying Danielle, but it's not. It's, can you unmute yourself for a second, young lady, and pronounce your first name for me? Because I hate it when people...
My name's Danine.
Danine. Okay, thank you. Because I hate it when people
You're
get
welcome.
wrong. I'm like,
It's very unusual. So yes, thank you for asking.
well, I just realized, and I was like, I've been saying that wrong, and she's used to people calling her Danielle, but that is not right. So let's correct that.
No, there's no L's or R's in my name.
I just, like, the 2 N's turned into 2 L, the 1 N turned into 2 L's. Anyway, I do apologize for that. And I'll probably still say it wrong, but I'll get closer. So unpacking the box. Have you watched Sewing Mastery videos?
Okay. So no, that we unpacked the box in November and we're a little daunted by it.
That's okay.
So is there something that I could get up to speed?
That's kind of really truly where we started with this. We talked about when we planned this, we talked about, do we go through peeling all the tape off? And I mean, I guarantee there are people in class that are like, you guys are going so slow, and there are other people in class that are like, would you hurry up? And so
Right.
the goal is here to give us a base foundation. Pure information's sake. We planned this after this morning. You guys are sort of the second guinea pig group. We will be doing this again. We may try them via Facebook Live, but we run into some camera issues with Facebook Live. We can't change the views. So if we do it as a Facebook Live, you're only going to be able to look at one camera the entire time. So it's trying to find the best way to present information with hardware and software, and none of these companies want to have their stuff work together. And it's really frustrating.
No.
And unless I spend
No. And you guys are
$10,000 on cameras.
Yeah.
In retrospect,
no, it's really great.
Thank you.
If you're doing really great, and I happened to get on late, so I might have missed some things. Is this going to be posted somewhere else to where we can?
We are going to record them and post them via YouTube. And then we'll kind of see, and I'm going to mute you again real quickly. We're going to post them to our YouTube. Somebody said, what's the YouTube channel? And I have to look it up every time because there's like 3 videos out there. But we also are going to present it again. So I don't want anybody to feel like this was the perfect version of this. This is really the first run on DX machines. So you'll be able to see what we've done. When we do it again, we'll probably take down the first set of videos and put up an updated set of videos. So here's my take on a scan and cut. And I know I keep interrupting Teresa.
It's okay.
She's going to stab me here shortly with the stylus. Just push the buttons until you actively load a blade in there. Just push the buttons. But when we're ready to talk about loading a blade, I didn't walk away for that, did I?
Yeah, you did.
Okay. I'm going to just, since I walked away when she talked about that, I'm coming over here for a second. I just want to show you guys something. Miss Cindy, are you here? I don't think she's here, but okay, let's talk about this blade loading system. Do not, because it's an auto blade, it mushes. Do not force this thing down. I have somebody who did. I have somebody else who also almost did. The first one, why is that so hard to see? I hate technology some days. And I'm really a technology girl. That blade holder, if you force that blade down in there, it will get jammed. And I have a customer who did it. Yeah, she is. She's here. She did it at our first class and she cut and it was fine. And then something happened and it was jammed. It just from the old scanning cuts. If you had an old one and a new one, they behave differently. We were able to get her a brand new machine, you know, because she had just opened it in class. Sorry, Cindy, I don't mean to talk about you. But do not force that. It is the older ones you had to put more pressure behind. This thing, you almost just have to drop it from up above and let it settle in on its own. Is that what she said?
Yeah,
okay.
Just drop it and let it
do its thing. Yep.
And it's the same on all of these. They just drop.
Yep. And that's one of the ways we teach classes is we teach sometimes not what to do, but what not to do or how to fix it when it goes wrong. I am so glad we were able to get that machine just replaced out of the box from Brother. Nobody go tell Brother.
Nope.
That we think we know what happened.
It's defective.
It's just replaced it. Okay, so I'm sorry I walked away from
That's
that.
okay. All right. So
Why
now,
is that? Didn't we have a better view a minute ago? I hate technology some days. Anybody have a husband in like IT that does cameras better? No, that one's much worse. Sorry. It's worth a shot. We will borrow somebody else's husband. Alice put Mike on notice, and we will play with the cameras before we do this again. It was better for a hot minute.
okay, we're gonna do the mat. We're gonna load the mat.
We're gonna load the mat.
Yes.
Oof. Okay. How many of you, does everybody know about the reactions at the bottom of the screen? Tip the screen. We did tip the screen. We tipped the screen every which way. See? No, we tipped the screen earlier. Where was my question going? Sorry, it's been a long day. If you had a scan and cut prior to this one, if you had a scan and cut version 1 or 2, y'all know that your accessories, your mats and blades don't transfer. Did you say that?
I think I did when I talked about the mats and the blades. That
Okay.
if you have a DX, then you need to get the mats with the DX on them. The
And
blades with the DX.
If you order things online, because we know that happens, I would rather you order from a store. I would rather you order from your local store, but you're welcome to order from us. But we know that people order on Amazon, which is not my favorite place in the world. But you have to be really careful. We have multiple customers who have gotten the wrong mat or the wrong blade. And a lot of the times they will not take them back. So just kind of be aware of that. The other thing that Teresa may have said is that these mats are different. They only go in one direction. So you can't turn them 180 degrees. She said, yes, she told you that already.
The machine will tell you.
Oh, the machine, yes.
It will not tell you to turn it around. It'll just say,
Wrong mat.
that's wrong.
Yes. And if you had the very beginning of the DX series, there was a problem with the mats. So if you have a mat that is not working, constantly not working, and you did not check with your dealer or brother, I have to tell you that they will not take it back at this point. But there was a point where they were sending everybody a replacement mat. So I apologize if you got that and did not get that piece of information. But there are some bad mats out there. There also were some unscrupulous people who were selling their bad mats to people who did not realize that it was a dysfunctional mat and would not work. So just kind of be aware of some of those things. I'm gonna go away again now.
No, you have to readjust it.
I have to readjust the,
Yes. Okay,
we're gonna,
going to take my mat now, and I'm going to remove the dust cover, the acetate cover that we talked about.
acetate cover.
Acetate cover, plastic cover that comes on your mat. You don't want to cut through that. You only want to use your mat, not the cover. There is an exception. If you have, we didn't talk about this one. If you have for your DX a scanning mat,
I know, yeah, there it is.
this is,
I think so. With the black.
no, it has grid on it. Here. Okay. We also have what's called a scanning mat. This mat also has an acetate cover, but it does not come all the way off. It just comes to the top. When you get it, it will have a blue strip across the top that comes off. This acetate cover remains on. Now, we'll talk about scanning at another time, just because there's so much involved with that. But the scanning mat is helpful to get a good clean image when you're scanning into your machine. You can use a standard mat, light tack mat, whatever, can use that to scan. You don't have to have this scan mat, but you will get a much better image if you use this. But just remember, this is the only mat that you don't take the acetate cover off, because you're going to pocket something in there. Okay, so now I'm going to take my mat, and I'm actually going to take a piece of cardstock. And as I said before, you don't have to always put your material or cardstock or whatever in the top right, top left, whatever. You can place this anywhere on your mat. This one is still pretty sticky. Yeah, we're good. Okay, then we have what's called a brayer, and we can use this to roll the paper or the vinyl, whatever, to get all the bubbles out and make sure that it's on the mat. If your mat's not very sticky, we have Brother blue tape. It's like washi tape, and you can, thank you, you can use this to stick down the edges of your mat. You just have to remember that, again, these markings along the edges are read by the machine for the scanning purposes. So you do not want to cover. If I had a 12 by 12 piece of cardstock, I would not want to cover up these markings. So we also have our little squeegee. If we needed to, we could use this and make sure that we're on the mat nice and snug.
You know what I've used? We didn't show this earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I've used that. An ice scraper.
Ice scraper.
And you guys, we're in Delaware and it was supposed to snow today. I am so thankful it did not.
Me too. Okay, so now we're going to take the mat and we're just going to place it under the rollers. You don't have to force it or anything. There's like a little ledge on either side. Just slides right in. There's a little icon indent into your machine that says mat or has a picture of your mat. So you just kind of snug it in there. And then we want to load our mat. We can load the mat at any point. So always remember you have to load your mat, and that's your middle icon on the right hand side. Underneath your home button, it looks like your mat, a little grid. So we're going to load the mat. Sometimes people will get so carried away with doing their design or their cut, and they'll push cut and nothing happens. And it's, well, the mat's not loaded. It's not going to cut. So right now it just drew the mat in enough to snug it in under the rollers, and it's ready when I'm ready to go. So I put this heart on here. Let's put a couple more. We'll do 4. Set those, and they're all lined up on the piece of cardstock. So now I'm not sure, they're like across the 12 by 12 mat on the top. My piece of cardstock is 8.5 by 11. So what I'm going to do, this middle icon.
You're gonna hang on a second. I'm gonna try and get a better image. That's what you're gonna do right now.
The middle icon on your machine almost looks
So
like
hard
an
to see.
oven door. It's under your edit. Okay, I'm going to push that, and it's going to say scan the mat, show the background, blah, blah, press start key to scan. This is going to scan it. And again, you have to make sure that you have nothing behind your machine, because this time the mat will go all the way through and come back out to the front. Okay, so now we can, well, you can see the paper, but you can't see the hearts.
I'm with you on that.
Okay, so I can see that across the top, this one heart is half on the paper and half not. So I'm going to bring him down so he's more on the paper. A little better. Okay. Yeah, that's better.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure I could stand here and hold this the whole time,
Oh,
but
come on.
but we could try it.
Okay, so now I've scanned it in, I've got my hearts in place, and I'm ready to cut. So I'm going to say, okay. Now it's going to ask me, please select. Do I want to cut? Do I want to draw, emboss, foil, whatever, you know, the different options are here, paper piercing,
Sorry, guys.
all of this. So I'm going to cut, but we haven't done our test cut yet. But on the DX machines, this is what I like. The older machines, you had to do your test cut first before you went ahead and did your design. On the DX, you go to cut, and it says on your screen, test. All right. So we always want to test. Even though we have the auto blade in, we want to test to save our mat. So I'm going to push test, and it's going to give me, I'll move it over. It'll give me an icon with little square, triangle, circle, different shapes across the bottom.
I realize it's blurry. The question was, you know, we can either see the hearts or we can have a little bit clearer of a screen. I don't seem to have an in between. So I want you to at least be able to see the hearts. I'm just working on, we're going to work on this. I realize it's blurry.
Okay.
It's not you.
It's us.
It's us.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to pick this little square as my test icon, and I'm going to say, okay. Now, it's hard to, well, you can probably see this little red box better than the hearts. I move my test shape to the bottom of whatever my material is. Generally, the machine will put it up at the top of your page, but after you run your test cut, you want to check it to see if it's going to be a good cut, or if it's vinyl, if it'll lift off of your mat cleanly. So if I have to go up here to check it, that means there's a good chance that I could shift my mat, or, you know, and I don't want to do that because everything's all lined up. If I have it down the bottom in an open space, it's much easier to check. You'll see that in a second. So I've got my little test cut box ready to go, and I'm going to tell the machine start. And it'll feed in. The blade's adjusting automatically. It'll go all the way down to where I place my little square.
See, that's not blurry. So depending upon the thickness, the machine will very often cut more than once. So don't be freaked out if it does it. It basically carves. It thinks it's thicker than it is. So we see this, what you're seeing right now, the triple. Okay, four is different. There's a first time for everything.
Mm-hmm.
Normally with thicker things, like if you've ever worked with puffy foam. Okay. Well,
I have a problem.
we
No,
may.
it's almost done. I've never,
I have seen it. Yeah, there it goes. That was a different noise at the end.
okay.
So there are things, if it thinks it's thicker, it will carve. It'll keep. Did it seriously?
Mm-hmm.
What are the settings? Okay, so this is what not to do. And although we know that this is an auto, under Teresa's arm here, ready? Move your arm. This is going to be, see that? That's not the mat. There's a hole. Okay, you guys have to laugh with us because, you know,
We really wanted to demonstrate what not to do.
what not to do. You don't want to do that.
Yes.
But so it was thinking that it was thicker. My guess is that the settings on this, so don't test again.
No, wait, you got to go here to go there.
Okay, we're going to go into the
Alright.
settings.
Cut speed is 5. The pressure is auto.
Okay, we're on cut speed. Pressure's on auto. Keep going.
Half cut off.
Cut amounts. Blade adjustment. This is a brand new floor model, so I haven't cut with it before. So my guess is that we need to adjust our blade. So it can happen right out of the box. At least it happened to us and not to you. This is also why using the test cut is a good idea, because you'll cut a little piece as opposed to a big hunk out of your blade, out of your mat. It's the first time I've ever seen anybody cut through. Don't make me laugh because the camera shakes. Oh, okay. Hey. So that's how we test cut. But what you saw was the machine thinking that this was thicker. So, and that happens. Normally it happens when you have something that's actually thicker on there. So, do you ever see the people who do the really good videos? I'm tightening this up and then I'm looking at the people who do the really good videos, they edit this stuff out. Yeah. But it happens. Okay, videos. Oh, I don't mind you talking in the videos if you don't mind being in there. We could have stopped at mid-cut. We just didn't know what it was doing. What is that little Teresa? Barbie gave us a googly face. Yeah, it's
If we wanted to stop, this button here is the pause stop. You can pause and it'll say, do you want to stop cutting? And you say yes. Okay,
let's see. How do you prevent if you're testing? Okay, so first of all, don't be horrified. In all of the scan and cuts that we've ever sold and worked with, that's the first time that I've ever seen it happen. I don't know the answer to that, but it is a really pretty easy fix. Yeah, it was a balsa wood cut. You're right. Mats absolutely still usable. Did you talk about fixing the mats earlier?
I did. I showed the other one about the packing tape.
Yeah, we'll just take a piece of clear packing tape. So super, super thin, and we'll patch it from the back. we'll just put that piece back in on a flat surface and we'll just tape over it and it'll hold it in place. That's funny. Don't peel the green off it yet. It happens. And the thing is, these mats are absolutely a wearable item, more so than, say, a rotary mat. So sort of keep that in mind. This is like not quite as wearable as stabilizer for machine embroidery or fabric, but it's a pretty wearable item. So we just have to laugh about it. But the machine thought it was thicker. So I'm going to actually pull the machine, go to half cut, maybe. Just cut amount, change the cut amount. It's trying to cut a full millimeter. Go down.
Well, that's the default.
Well, we'll see.
You
We're
want
going
the
to try it again.
half cut on or off?
Leave it on. Let's
Okay.
try it. Okay, that is really blurry. You guys can't see those. I know you can't see that. I love this. How about I just hold the camera? It might just be easier. Except I'm not sure how stable my arm is tonight. Okay.
So
Camera view. Everybody can see the
red box.
4 hearts. Yes. Can we see the hearts? I'm hoping we can see the hearts. We're either going to get blurry on the words or we're going to get blurry on the pictures. It doesn't seem to be that great on either one. But we will. And you see the
Carol. Hi, Carol.
Yeah, she's been here the whole time.
Okay, so we're going to do another test cut, but in order to do that, I need to move my original square over or up, whatever. I can do that using my stylus, or I can use these arrows. I'm going to move it over.
Okay, so we've got a couple of questions here, and somebody says, "When it turn the machine off and back on." We can try that, Melinda. That shouldn't be what did it. And the lever on the left-hand side for 1 and 2, that has more to do with the thickness of what's coming through. It literally raises and lowers the starting point for the blade. This is not thick enough to be at 2, and if we put it on 2, it would probably yell at me.
Yeah.
But we're gonna guinea pig it and find out what happens. So if you guys can
it's the same.
see the hearts.
Yeah, we did this earlier.
But that was the other machine.
Yeah,
So let's
with the ratchet.
scan the. This is the first time that
We don't have to scan it again.
I want to scan it so we can see where the hole is.
No, I moved the square over.
I know, I know that.
Yes, mother.
So in the off chance that it went sideways on you and you didn't want to cut where the box was before, we can scan again. So if you have a damaged part of your fabric, or see how we have that little box now, that little white space, that's showing where the cut was before. The lever on the left-hand side, 1 or 2, that has to do with the thickness of whatever you're loading through the machine. If it doesn't fit through, if it's something that's thicker, if it's a 3 millimeter foam, I want to raise that up.
Generally, the machine will tell you to move that into a different position. So
But we'll see. We might cut through the mat again. In which case, we'll just sort of have to laugh about the whole thing. And
well, if it starts more than once, I'm gonna stop it.
okay. Yeah, I think it might go more than once. So what it's doing now is just determining the thickness. Yeah, there's something off. Okay. I'm with.
It's gonna go to off. Did you do, oh, it stopped?
It stopped.
Okay. It still
Okay.
is a little funny.
I'm getting ready to turn the whole booger off.
We also have Brother tools that are nice and handy. The initial spatula that comes with your machine, the plastic one, is good. But if you really get into heavy duty cutting, you want something, the pick is nice for pulling out little pieces like from your letters and little intricate designs. The spatula for raising up your materials, which I'm going to do.
So we're gonna see what happens. How much of this did we cut through this time?
Okay, so I want to see. All right, so far I have my cut. My piece of cardstock is still on the mat. And I can take it. And we have a successful cut. There's my little square. Did not cut through the mat, did not etch the mat. You will find as you use your mat more and more, you may have little pieces of your design etched into the mat. As long as it doesn't go through to the other side, you clean your mat, you keep your dust cover on when it's not used, and it should be fine. I have a mat that I've used for 5 years and it's still, I can use it for paper and things. If you're going to do a lot of fabric, I think we talked about that. It would be good to dedicate a fabric mat. Use lint rollers on your fabric before you apply it to your mat to take off any stray threads or lint or anything like that. Keep it clean. You want to just make sure that everything is clean. And then if you want to dedicate a fabric, well, I guess we don't have a dedicated fabric mat for these because there is a fabric mat.
That's up to you. You have choices now. If you have the machine that came with the fabric adhesion sheet, you can purchase a fabric mat. But if you've already got the supplies with the fabric adhesion sheet, or you want a 12 by 24 for fabric, you would need to create a dedicated. Now, what we did differently was we massively changed this, and we went to half cut, and we went to a 0.5 millimeter cut to just try and sort of fix it, which we did. We will address, not on camera, but with a tech tomorrow, why it's cutting so deeply. And your hearts. Okay, yeah, you cut your hearts. The cut through is abnormal.
Yeah.
Okay,
Should we cut the hearts?
let's cut the hearts.
Okay, we're gonna cut the hearts.
Okay, so once our test works, we're gonna just go ahead and say it's okay to cut. Now, yours may not go through this many, this much to check on the thickness. We're gonna figure out what that is. Yeah, it didn't do it 4 times.
Well, even the adjustment part.
No, I meant the adjustment. You did the adjustment multiple times earlier.
Yeah.
Why'd you do hearts again when we talked about shamrocks
I
earlier?
don't know. It's late.
You end up in auto
Okay.
mode. Okay, and when it's done cutting,
I say is finished cutting. And I say, okay. And it takes me back to that screen. Then I take my spatula and I lift my paper.
hey, we
Take
have
that
hearts.
off. And
Putting your fingers on the mat.
no, you can unload your mat at this point. Just push the button that you use to load it. And it doesn't hurt the mat if you just bend it a tiny bit, just to get a little bit of a lift under your piece.
Curve, not crease.
Right. We're just going to curve it a little, and then it lifts up. You can see the piece lifts up more. Okay, so there we have it with our little square hole. Okay. So now to delete this, I would just go to home and it will delete all patterns. Again, not the patterns in the machine, just the pattern that was on the screen I was working on. Okay, so delete all patterns. Yes, takes us back to the home. Now, if I had wanted to save it, I would have gone to the choice save, and then it would have gone into the machine's memory. It doesn't allow me to name it. It comes up as memory number 00001, memory 0002. So those would be in your retrieve data tab here. When you're using the software, Canvas Workspace, and you save if you save to a USB stick or you send it wirelessly, once you send it or put your stick in, retrieve data, and it's going to ask you, do you want to retrieve your data from the machine? Do you want to, it's grayed out because we're not hooked in right now. I haven't sent anything. So this would be wireless. This is the USB, or this would be USB to from the machine to the USB, the fourth icon.
Yep,
Yes.
you can direct link.
Yeah. Okay, so that's where you would go to find. There's a couple things in here. So it just gives you little numbers and you can go through.
Yep, these are definitely blurry. Apologies.
Okay.
And wait, you can change, go
Oops.
back to settings.
Oh,
You
this
can
one.
change the thumbnail size.
Oh.
So if you go to the bigger ones and then,
Okay.
and it makes the images
Oh,
bigger.
Bigger.
So this is really helpful. And this is an upgrade from the 1 and 2 to
Mhm.
the DX. It really helps you when things look a lot alike, or you've been working on something and you've saved multiple versions of it.
Mhm.
Yeah, the blur. I'm not excited by the blur.
Okay. All right.
So we are at 8:15, and there actually were not, I don't think, quite as many things to review as far as the basics with this.
No.
Are you up for
with the-
talking about some scanning?
We can, or did you want to go over the other accessories?
I'd rather do some scanning.
I'll show you.
Of course I would. Well, okay. So here's the initial plan, was to talk about kind of the basic buttons. I'm going to trade places with Teresa. How's that? Because she's like, I don't want to do this right now. So she's going to come stare at the chat. And you guys are going to get me for a minute. Keep in mind that we know this is blurry. We're going to do this again. Is this a DX scan that?
No, it's not. There wasn't a DX scan that.
Oh, there is a DX scan. Oh, maybe I sold it. Okay. Well, trade chairs. So let's talk about scanning capability on the machine and how do we scan and what do we do? Where'd the stylus go?
It's in the pocket.
Oh, good Lord, the things I go looking for. Okay, so I'm going to come back home and I'm going to talk to you about some other pieces and functions that are on here.
This is what we got heat bond on it.
Before the scan. Okay, I'm going to go to the right. If you have a roll feeder, that says roll feeder. That blurry blob there says roll feeder. It's a little less blurry. So if you've got a roll feeder, this needs, and it takes you through how to set up the roll feeder. I'm not going to get into a whole lot about that. We have done that. We have done that in the past for class. Embossing is specific to the DX series. So if I wanted to emboss, that setting is there. And then my collections, these are all of the, this is going to give you a USB to access any of the designs that you've sort of added to the system. Okay, but with the scanning function, that is really not happy. You guys up for me testing another camera? Turn, we're gonna turn the camera off for a second. We're gonna try one more, see if I can get less blur with the light change. I'm gonna get this if it kills me, and it just might eventually. Okay. Go in to, which one is this? 5D. Is that 5D?
Mm-hmm.
Is that less blurry?
Yeah.
So less blurry, but this is the camera that didn't show the hearts on the screen. You may just have to flip multiple cameras. Okay. So let me kind of go over direct cut is I want to put something down. We're going to do this again, but I'm going to show you Teresa's. I'm going to put down some fabric. Maybe I have some Mickey fabric and I just want to cut out my Mickeys. Does that make sense to everybody? It's just creating the shape and it's cutting it out. One shot. I'm going to put whatever I have down onto my sticky mat. I'm not manipulating it. I'm not resizing it. I'm not doing any changing on it. Scan to cut data tends to be what I use most of the time. And I'm going to do that with the scanning mat. The scanning mat with that acetate cover has an anti-glare on it, and it helps. It also helps you keep your sticky mats from having things stuck to them. And then it also eliminates the risk of something sticking to the mat. I have seen that. It happens. There are some things that stick to the mat and never come off, and that mat is never to be used again. There are worse things than cutting the little square in the here. And then scan to USB. I'm going to be really honest with you. The majority of people have some kind of a scanner copier contraption at home, and that's what this does. But this is nice if, you know, we're in our crafting room and maybe we are working on some scrapbooking and I realized that maybe I didn't have that picture. I'm getting ready to put it in a scrapbook and I want a copy of it, kind of a thing. It is not the fastest scanner on the planet and it won't do a stack. But keep in mind that Brayer as a company is the same company that makes the printers and faxes. That's what this technology is. This is the same scanning technology that they have in a lot of their printers. So, you know, that's why we have this level of technology here. And also why we don't see this particular piece of equipment in the sister brand, because this came out of their printer side and not their sewing side. And then I've also got transfer to canvas. So if I were connected to my scan and cut canvas, I could scan something on my machine and work with it on canvas. Why would I do that? Because our computer screens are typically much, much larger than the screen on our cutters. Word of advice, if you ever come to class and we have logged your scan and cut into maybe one of our classroom computers, and then I am demoing something the next day, and I keep sending it and sending it and sending it, and it is not showing up. And then I get a phone call from a customer who says, why are all these things showing up on my machine? The scan and cut canvas is when you connect them, they're connected to one another. You want to be sure and disconnect.
Log out.
Always want to log out of stuff. So it's important. But I'm going to go back over here. So the direct cut without getting into a whole lot of, I can't read that from here, with a whole lot of detail, does that make sense to everybody? We took the fabric, she just put it down. We took a Mickey face, actually that's a mini, and we took the hearts, scanned those, cut them out over here. Direct cut. Scan to cut data. Can I put this down?
Mhm.
Okay. So Teresa showed you guys this one earlier. Okay. And this is a really quick time for me to just kind of point out, it is important when we create our cut files that we have connecting lines. And I think, did you do that manually? She just drew some lines in there.
Yeah.
But I can,
Oh, no, it was cut. It just didn't, when I drew it, it did not connect.
it wasn't
So I
continuous.
thought it was a good
It was a good learning
to
piece.
leave it
Okay.
like that. So you could.
So I'm going to scan to cut data. Okay. My screen area, I went bigger than this for my scan. I'm going to work with black and white. But here's what's nice about the scan function on the DX. If I have just a little thing to scan, I don't have to scan my whole mat. My recommendation, if you buy, make an outside noise and you guys are getting it. If you buy a scanning mat, buy the 12 by 24 because I can scan something smaller. Unless you have a 125, or I think the new 85. There are a couple of the models that will not scan 12 by 24. They'll only scan 12 by 12. But if I have a 225 or a 230, I'm going to get the bigger mat. I can always scan something smaller on the bigger mat. No, that didn't make any difference, did it? Okay, in this case, I have the whole page, so I'm going to go to 12 by 12. Mat not loaded. I was like, why is that not working? Huh, mat not loaded. That would be why. Got to be smarter than the mat.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not feed rollering. I'm matting. Okay, so it loaded the mat. It said, yes, I can work with this mat. And we're just going to scan. Now, I have accidentally tried to demo this for somebody and I left the plastic piece on top of the mat. And then it just cut right through the acetate cover. So sort of word of warning, things not to do. And depending upon how elaborate something is, if you have multiple colors, if you know, the more elaborate it is, the longer it takes for it to scan and recognize. This is a pretty quick, and you can see where we've got all of
She asked
the
if you were
shapes.
using the scan mat.
I did not use a scan mat, mostly because I don't have one right at the moment. We are,
A DX. You don't have a
I don't have a DX scan mat. I have a regular Scan and Cut 1-2 scan mat, but not a DX scan mat. And we're going to get more in depth, but I know there were some people who had some questions, and I'm going to address a couple of them ahead of time. Somebody had asked about creating a quilt stencil. So if I took this shape and I wanted to create a quilt stencil, bless you if you want to quilt that. But if I wanted to create a quilt stencil, we have 3 icons across the top here. This top left one looks for the outsides. Looks for the outsides only. Now you'll notice that it also saw the outside of the paper. It picks up all the dust and lint that's there. It picks everything. But if I look at these 2 leaves, they're harder to see on camera. It just found the outlines of those. The top one, because it was not connected, it doesn't quite, but okay. The top one, because it wasn't connected, it couldn't find just the outer border. The one all the way on the right cuts everything. Okay, inside, outside, every contraption. And so here's what that cut would look like. Cuts the inside, cuts the outside, cuts everything. But in between, which is what Teresa doesn't have a sample of, and we could probably play with. And I will tell you that I did this on one of my very first pieces. It cuts on both sides of the line. This setting on these designs means that I'm going to have little tiny slivers of paper everywhere.
I did that
Oh, did you?
yeah, it did it.
Okay. So here's an example of
Not very
It's not, and it's hard to see on camera,
good. Yeah.
but this little ice cream cone, it went to the inside and the outside. How close can I bring that without it turning into a big blur ball?
Yeah, you can kind of see it.
You can kind of see the blue peeking through there. But why would I want it to do that? Which is really what I wanted to kind of address. If I want to create a quilt stencil, and I have a quilt stencil that I have hand drawn, or I have the rights to a quilt stencil, because by the way, some of those quilting patterns are copyrighted, and a lot of the quilt books that give you hand quilting stencils specifically say they can't be translated into any electronic format. But I would want to cut the inside and the outside. I also, quite frankly, would want a thicker line, because if I'm going to use something like quilt pounce, I want a line that's heavier than, a millimeter. If you do not know what quilt pounce is and you have no idea what I'm talking about, just ignore my rambling. But for people who do quilt using quilt stencils, you can create your own quilt stencils utilizing this inside and outside of the lines functionality. Did that make sense to anybody? Are you using scan mat? Okay, that was the last question. Black and white, just like any of our copiers, scanners, do I want it to detect only darker things, only lighter things? If I come in here and I say I want just the darker stuff, and it's going to go back through that recognition because it's got the scan, but now it has to reprocess it. What you'll see is I'll have less of all of those sort of bits and pieces showing up. Okay, so less of those little linty pieces, less of the outer border. It still picks up some of it. And you get to just sort of play with those adjustments. But if I look here at the bottom of this leaf, it actually eliminated some of the pieces there. So we want to ignore the object size. Anything smaller than a certain size is unimportant to me. So I can tell it to ignore things if I want to. And this little icon here is a line smoothing. This is really helpful if we have imagery that's really pixelated to begin with. Would that have been, I know, I took over.
Oh, no, that's
Sorry.
fine. No.
Okay.
I'm listening.
If I want to focus in on one of these, so I'm going to go back because I do want to focus in on one. And I know some of you guys are West Coast, so it is not almost bedtime for you, but it is almost bedtime for us East Coasters. It's not really. I won't fall asleep until about 3. Also, if you haven't figured it out by now, we're a little on the casual side, so you get to hear us chatter. Okay, I went to the middle because what I really want is this image here. I wanted all of its pieces, and I'm going to just kind of zoom in and be sure that I only select that one. Okay, and here's what happens when I say preview. It looks for everything within that space. If there was a line that went partially through that on the left-hand side, it eliminated that a little bit. I could probably zoom in a little bit more. Just don't want to cut off that stem of that leaf. I'm not going to get it. Whatever. There we go. Let's stop there. That's what I've got. Now here's my file. Because I scanned to cut data, I just created a file and it's like, where do you want me to put it? So I could put my USB in. I'm going to put it on my machine memory because I want to show you what we do with it next. So you can scan this multiple times. You could scan it and just find this outline to find the shape of the leaf. I could scan it to make a quilt stencil out of it, and I could scan it to find all of the lines. Okay, it saved it to file number 9. That's still a little blurry. And what I'm going to do at this point is just go home. It's going to delete everything that's on screen. That's perfectly fine. And I'm going to find file number 9. And I'm on my larger icons. By the way, this is a larger scan mat. This was the 24-inch scan mat. This is a little woodland scene. They're all from the same scan. Here's my image. I've got that. What I'm about to show you is a whole lot easier to do on canvas. I'm just going to tell you ahead of time because this is a small screen and I can only select one item at a time, and I don't have the ability to use the control button and my left mouse button. But all I want is the one leaf. Okay, so I want all of the images in here. I don't want, and I'm just using sort of, I call these my tab buttons. I don't want the pieces of this leaf. So I'm going to find that. I don't want that, and I'm going to erase it. I don't want that, and I'm going to erase it, and I don't want that, and I'm going to erase it. Now my other option would be to use this multi-select and try and select just the pieces of that leaf to the right. But I run the risk of cutting into my big leaf. So let's see what we get. We got all those. Okay. I can erase all of them, but I still have this other one. And so you see why I like the ability to, and I can't, there I go. I can grab it.
Bunny.
Yes,
Dolores has a question. She said she loves all the info, but she's seriously overwhelmed and would like to purchase an extra set of mats. Can you tell her which ones would be best for a beginner?
absolutely. And we realize this is overwhelming. And we will, but just because we had some time, I wanted to show you guys this. So depending upon what machine you have. And so if one of you is like maxed out mentally, that means that all of you are maxed out mentally, or most of you, and that's perfectly fine. We don't mind at all. If I were to add just one mat, and assuming that you have a 225 or a 230, depending upon which version of that you have, I would add a scanning mat. I would add a 12 by 24 scanning mat. Because as I mentioned, you can scan. You want to stop looking at the machine? You want to scoot left or right? Okay. Okay, so you'll get to see me and all of the equipment and all of the cameras. So if I have the newest model, none of them come with a scanning mat. So that's the first thing that I would get. The second thing that I would look at is, what do you want to cut? If you want to cut fabric, I would absolutely get a fabric mat. But if I want to cut big pieces of fabric, and this is where we get into the if ors. If I want to cut big pieces of fabric, anything bigger than 12, if I want long pieces, go ahead and get a 12 by 24 standard mat and the fabric adhesion sheets, which are sold separately. And then dedicate one mat just for fabric. The fabric adhesion sheets, when you put them on, they only come in 12 by 12, so you need to put 2 on. When they get super full, you can actually peel those off and plop down new fabric adhesion sheets. But the fabric adhesion sheets have to be loaded to a completely clean standard tack mat. Fabric adhesion sheets don't work with a low tack mat. If you are more of a paper crafter, depending upon what you want to do, and there are Facebook groups for Scan and Cut. There was a woman who did these beautiful houses, and she just cut them out of paper. The shingles on the roof, the stair treads, it was amazing, and not in a million years am I going to do that. But if you're a paper crafter, maybe get the low tack mats in the longer mats. So look at what your machine came with to determine what you want to add. But the scanning mat doesn't come with one of them. So scanning mat is my first priority. Some of the newer models come with the vinyl blade. There is not a vinyl mat, so I might want to add that. And if you want to email us and tell us kind of exactly which one you have, and this is a group statement, we're happy to kind of give you some recommendations. But the first thing I would get would be a scanning mat. The other thing that I would get is probably a second standard mat, because you might do something bad to it. And I cross my heart, this is the first time I've ever, in 2.5 years, seen an SDX mat cut through, where I've actually, the only time I've ever seen it cut through, even when the settings were wonky, which these weren't wonky.
Such a nice clean cut.
Yes, it's the first time we've got anything on this one. So, you know, it happens, but it's not Panic City. So, you know, and we'll just tape it up and we'll continue to demo it. And it's always good to see where things, you know, can go wrong and do go wrong. I'm just gonna look and see if you guys have a quilt label that's written with a pen set. Oh, yes. Yours came with a scanning mat and not a fabric mat. Where are you, Sheila? There also are different settings internationally. Miss Sheila. I'd be interested to know where you are in the world. And I will also say that some of the promo packages they've done with like HSN and QVC can have some different options. It's really hard for us to kind of go, absolutely, your machines came with this. I can kind of give you the basics. Quilt label. So if I want to make a quilt label, I can kind of take you through that. I would not use the pens that came with the machine to do a quilt label, quite honestly. And I would look at the lettering that's built in. But what I would use is a universal pen holder. You might need the narrower and get a permanent fabric pen. And that's why I would not use the pens that came with this. The colored pens that come with it likely will bleed on fabric, and the wash away and air dissipating marking pens are going to obviously dissipate. So I would use a universal pen holder, and then practice. There's got to be some practice. Adding fabric to the mats, if I don't have any fusible on the fabric, means that the fabric moves, which is why we use the fabric adhesion sheets. They hold a little bit tighter. The other thing I like to do is use Terrio Magic, which is like a heavy duty starch that washes out. It does help us cut fabric. Better quality fabrics will cut better. Higher thread counts do cut better. Just something to sort of keep in mind. We've seen people have trouble with cutting fabric. Lower thread counts just tend to shred and tear a little bit more. But practice is going to make that pretty significantly better. And there's nothing that we do that we haven't done before. We have cut on a DX with the auto blade multiple times and just not cut through the mat. So there also are times where something suddenly goes, you know, sideways, and that's sort of normal for life. You know, if we could all be sure that life went straight, we would not have spent the last, 10 months doing what we have. So Canada may be Sewing Machines Plus in the US. Maybe it was a special they ran. So how to get the fabric adhesion sheets on straight. They're just 12 by 12 squares, slowly. And I kind of treat them like putting on wallpaper. I'll start to peel the backing off a little bit and start it at the top. And just slowly kind of pull the backing off as I unroll the fabric adhesion sheet down. It is not always perfectly straight. The nice thing with the fabric adhesion sheet and a brand new mat is that you can kind of peel it if you need to reposition it to start with. Don't peel it multiple times. If it's a little crooked, just let it be a little crooked. If it's a lot crooked, pop it up before you've put the whole thing down, and then put it back down. And that's just, practice, 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 practice. There's nothing we're talking about that's not practice. Low tack and standard tack. How often do you have to replace the fabric mat? Depends upon your fabric. Depends upon how much you use it. Depends upon if it's a really linty fabric, like flannel is gonna kill a fabric mat a whole lot faster than a batik. It's like, how often do you go through a rotary mat? Depends how much cut, how you treat it. There's not an exact to that. To do an original signature on a quilt label or to hand write a quilt label, write it on paper, scan it in, scan it to cut data, but you're actually not cutting. You'll scan it, they still call it cut data, but scan to cut data, and then bring it back up and just draw it with the permanent pen. There was another question. Low tack and standard tack. One's stickier than the other. And it's an oversimplification, but it's not. Paper works better on a low tack mat or a well-used standard tack mat. So that's why we told everybody if we get to active cutting, and some of you did, a low tack mat will not hold the paper. If I put a piece of paper down on a brand new standard tack mat and I'm aggressive with it, so I either use a brayer or something else, I'm not getting it off of there. I've done it. I've absolutely done. Put a piece of paper down on a standard tack mat and I rubbed it down, and yeah, it didn't, like the paper started to just kind of pull apart. Also different types of paper. So like hand pressed papers, they will not come off most mats. They just sort of fall apart. So be aware of what you're bringing into it for the result that you want to get out of it. But I can stick my hand in the middle of a standard tack mat that's new and like pick it up and flop it around, and it stays attached to me. This one has a hole, but I don't want to get it all gooey with skin. A low tack mat will pop off right away. So I don't use low tack mats for fabric ever. I don't use low tack mats for most of the vinyls. I don't use low tack mats for anything with a super glassy surface. So if I've used the Brother Fusible and peeled the paper off of it, I wouldn't put that on a low tack mat. It won't stay, and then it'll start to move. Has anybody experienced that, where it moves on you and then it either cuts wonky or it gets all jammed up in the machine? I am going to show you one other thing. Hole in the mat. Of course. That's bizarre. But there is a first time for everything. I'm going to leave this camera on. I'm going to turn this one off and move it out of the way. And we did not show the earlier class this. I'm going to turn this off because your questions lead to other things. My favorite thing about the DX series is the fact that this stupid thing doesn't fall down on me. With the first generation of scan and cuts, I always wanted my thing up as far as so I just pulled it all the way up and it fell down, it fell down, it fell down. I used to put something behind there to prop it until somebody taught me how to do it correctly. So on the bottom, this, and now I can't do it again. Okay. I have done it on a DX and I can't for the life of me do it again. But on the bottom of here, come here, Mr. Trey. Is he crammed in further than he should be? Both of you should pull out. I didn't like that noise. All right. Okay. It wouldn't go out any further for you, huh? There we go.
There you go.
Okay. So this whole piece will come out. There's a little latch up here. Underneath, where's my fingers? Underneath in here, this is your scanner. So when you scan something and you start to get streaks on it, or you scan something and you have a constant thing in there that shouldn't be there, go ahead and pull this out and then clean the glass. Do not spray glass cleaner in here. Use a microfiber glass cloth if you've got one of those, or spray some glass cleaner on a low lint, not a paper towel, because that'll just leave linty stuff in there, but on a low lint cloth and clean the scanner. Okay. I don't know that we've ever talked about that. The previous generations, because I know a couple of you have both, it just has a little plastic piece that has a latch on one side, possibly both. It might only be one and it lifts out, but there is a way to access it on the other machines as well. Okay, and to put it back in, let's close it back up. I'm gonna watch myself do it on camera, like backing up a trailer, left is right and right is left. And then it's protected underneath. Oh, maybe it was the cap that I heard bouncing around. Oh yeah, it was the cap. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we cut vinyl. Cut from the front or back. Depends upon the vinyl. Glitter vinyl, we're gonna cut from the back. So a fusible glitter vinyl, we cut from the back. So we have to use that mirror functionality. Sticky, like adhesive vinyls and regular heat transfer vinyls, we cut from the front side. But any of the glitters, they have a different backing sheet, and we do it opposite. If I'm cutting vinyl fabric, so like the glitter vinyl fabric that I showed, did I show this class? The earlier class. Okay, I showed this class. Hard to tell at this point. Or something like marine vinyl, that one doesn't matter quite as much. Lint rollers are your friends. I lint roll basically everything before I put it down on the mat, just because, well, I have 3 dogs and a cat, so anything can pick up a piece of fur. I want as little transfer to my mats as possible. I want to extend the life of my mats as long as possible. But the vinyl thing, it varies. And our goal for what we've done tonight with you guys and what we did earlier today is to not do 2 of these in one day ever again, because Teresa will really hurt me. But is to get everybody to a place where they understand the basic functions. So when we tell you to go to the X, Y, or Z button, you know where that is. And once we give everybody a really good foundation, we're going to continue on with technique-based classes. So we may have a class where we cut vinyl. Can I have your bag with the samples? Nope, that one. So I asked Teresa to cut some things for me a while ago. You can cut balsa wood with your scan and cut. Now, why would you? Well, if you're somebody who does like paper airplanes and, because you can, it's kind of my answer. But in here, I'm going to dig out some of the things. I gave her a stack of stuff and said, go home and cut it. And she did. So this is some vinyl fabric. It feels kind of like flannel on the back. I'm not sure where that one came from. I mean, I know where it came from, but I don't know who manufactures it. Where are the circles? I feel like these are all the, bear with me. These are all the things we cut them out of, but where are the, No. Oh well, you'll get to see the reverse. So, scrapbooking paper with the test cuts. Somewhere we have these actually cut. This is like a faux leathery stuff. It's a vegan leather. It's vinyl. So we cut an oval out of that. I might find them in here. Marine vinyl. This is what happens when something doesn't stick well. It moves on you as you're cutting, but you see the test cut. And here's a test cut that did not go so well. I don't know if you guys can see that. So there's one hole and not a whole hole there. Some more vinyl, some like chipboard. So you get to see the reverses. But she's very, very consistent with her test cut. This is a heavier vinyl. This one was some real, I think some real leather. Some glitter paper. Some more different weights of paper. This is puffy foam. So this is either a 2 or 3 millimeter puffy foam. This was a piece of puffy foam. I said, see if it works. It's way too thick. It does not work. I don't know where they were in that cart that was back here before. That's where this was. See if they're, there they are. I can see them, I think. A different weight of puffy foam. I don't think we have any fabric in here. Some more vinyl, some leather that didn't get cut. Oh, same stuff. So this is a really good, and this is some clear vinyl. I know it's hard to see, but this is a really good way to kind of play with your ScanNCut is look through your fabrics, look through, are they not there on the very top? Here? No, where your hand just was, right, other right. I thought I saw them right there, straight down. That's not them? Okay, well, we'll find them. But pull out stuff that you have, and it doesn't have to, look at your card making supplies, because we know y'all craft in various ways. So now we have all the stuff. Well, I could just give her this bag back and we can cut another set. Maybe we'll do that as a class. We'll do it as part of a demo. And then here's some cork. And this is some heavier cardboard, shiny cardboard. They're around here. They have to be. Oh well, we'll find them. So you know, a little trial and error. Now to do this, you're going to use up, you know, a mat and potentially a blade cutting through some of these really weird things. But you'll learn in the process. If you tried to do this, I would sort your items into sort of thickness and weight and cut the skinnier, lighter stuff first and the heavier stuff as you went along, which seems like common sense, but may not be, because I forget clearly. Okay, did you talk about the items behind me? I didn't. How many of you do we have left? We've lost about half of you. Cut 4 cross designs. Yay, Miss Betty Ann. Window cling vinyl is reverse also. It depends upon where you're putting a window cling. If you're going to put a window cling on the outside of the window, then you want to cut it straight. If you're going to put it on the, am I saying that right? Well, it depends on what it is, because once it's cut, you could probably flip it back and forth on the inside of the vinyl. I mean, on the inside of the window, right?
Yeah, unless
it only clings on one side, but most things that cling to windows,
yeah, it would cling.
it should cling both sides. I'm thinking color forms,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
It should cling on both sides. Okay, the stuff behind us. Bunch of the different mats. There are bags and cases, not that you guys are going places at the moment with your ScanNCuts, but there are different roller bags and cases available for the different machines. The plaid bag, up here, not plaid, but quilted bag. This is a mat bag. It only holds the 12 by 12 mats. I don't know why they did that. I would have preferred that they give us one that would hold both 12 by 12s and 12 by 24s. But that's the gadgets. Okay, new messages, items. Okay, so again with the selling of the stuff. So here's my about our website. I want you to buy things from your local store. I think I've said that a couple of times. We did not ever intend to sell things online. Our website was created for really for class registration. There are some limitations to what we can sell from Brother online as a dealer. So if you're looking for something specific, my best suggestion is to email us and check with us. If there is something that we sell and you would like to own, we are offering 20% off. I can almost guarantee if you go to your local shops and ask them if they will match that, tell them you took an online class, they were offering 20% off scan and cut accessories. Most shops will honor that. I would guess would honor that. I can't guarantee that they will, but I would guess that they would honor that. But if there's anything that Teresa found them, they were in a different place. Oh, yay. She's so glad. She did not want to cut these again. The next step for these ovals is to put grommets in them and then put them all in a ring and have them by the scan and cut, but it hasn't gotten there yet. But yeah, if there's anything that you need, we're happy to help you. We just would rather you buy with your local store, unless you're overseas, and then you don't want to deal with overseas postage, I promise. But anything that we can help you with, everybody got, if you got here, you got the Zoom link through the trials and tribulations of getting those to you. We're happy to have feedback. We actively request feedback. We do know that this is was a trial today. So send us some notes. We know we have some camera fuzzy screen questions to work on. I did talk to somebody earlier today who said if we could set the camera up further back and zoom in, we'd get a better image, which is lovely. I have these fancy cameras. That's also what you're watching me on right now. These are called Mevos. They do zoom. The problem is they don't hold the zoom. So they zoom and then they bounce back to full screen. And that's worse than kind of sort of being able to squint and see what you're looking at. I think that's everything. Scooting back over here. That's the t-shirt. Oh, yes, the t-shirt was Teresa made the Shenanigan Crew t-shirt. It is heat transfer vinyl, but she bought the design. Yeah, she bought the design from where?
Designbundles.com.
Designbundles.com. So
all of their designs come with commercial license.
okay.
So that's why I like them.
So yeah, you could, and was the lettering on the machine?
It was in the design.
Oh, okay. So the whole thing came
Whole thing
complete.
came from.
Whole thing came complete. But you could edit it if you just wanted one gnome. Is it a gnome
Yeah.
or is it a leprechaun? I don't know. Is that a gnome or a leprechaun?
And the other one is the glitter heat transfer vinyl.
Yep.
No,
They're all heat transfers.
No, the pink shirt.
Oh, the pink shirt that's really not showing up on camera. Hard to see, but it's actually two versions of pink glitter vinyl. There's little hearts inlaid in the bigger pink heart. Hard to see on camera. There's also another one. This is my favorite. So let's get smashed. Was that design bundles as well? But this you could probably do straight from the things that are built into the scan and cut. Pretty sure there's a pumpkin. You could add some shapes for, yeah. So be inspired by stuff sort of everywhere. We are not giving you guys some basics and then disappearing. That the goal is once we get all the cameras and everything really well set is to continue to motivate you and educate you on how your scan and cuts are working and then get into some of these techniques. So if you don't have a local shop, my preference is that you get on Brothers website and go to their dealer locator and find somebody that's close to you. Support your local economy. Don't buy stuff on Amazon. Did I say that out loud? Support your local tax base, support your local state, your local economy. It's really important right now. And my store would not be here. Some of you ladies are still here without my customers. You know, they have have seen us through this past 10, 12 months. And it means a whole lot. And it's important for all of the other shops out there. But if you're bound and determined, I'm only going to tell you, I won't sell you stuff, 2 or 3 times. And then if you're bound and determined, we're happy to. If you really can't find anybody else. Okay, I think we're out of here. What time is it? It's 9:01. How was that for timing? It lets me talk. Okay. I'm glad that you guys were here. We appreciate it. Everybody have a great night. We're going to turn the cameras off.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for coming.
We are still here on audio. If you have any questions and you want to pick my brain, you are welcome to unmute yourselves. Teresa is going home. I will clean this all up tomorrow.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yep.
My machine, I think, said at one point it could be updated. How do you update your machine?
Okay, so the Zoom link also included a link to the Brother update page.
Okay.
And if you go there and find your specific model, it just basically prompts you that their website is really smart. It knows what version of Windows you have. Just go through that process and it'll give you directions actually on the Brother webpage on how to update each individual model. And that's just faster and better for you than me trying to walk you through it when I'm not sitting in front of your machine. If you struggle with that, we have no problem with you reaching out. You send us an email. You're like, Bunny, I tried to follow those directions. They didn't make any sense. Worst case, I will set up like a private Zoom one-on-one with you, or Teresa will if she's here, and we can walk you through it. But we would rather, because sometimes you need to do something in the middle of the night. Although frankly, you can usually get me at 3 a.m. And don't laugh because I answered questions at 3 o'clock. Well, here's Alice. She took her picture off. You can reach out to us anytime, but I would rather educate you guys on the resources that are out there so that you don't need us as much. We want to be here for the stuff that you really need us for. So try that link and see if you get there and you're comfortable with it. If you're not, then let us know. Does that make sense?
Okay.
I mean, the more we're each all empowered to do things, the more we do things. And I understand that I'm frozen. I don't know where to start. So tonight was sort of a first step to that. Let's get you in.
Yeah, it's really well.
Yeah, and we'll keep building, but we're gonna rebuild this particular piece, this class probably again, at least once. I'm also gonna stop recording just because we don't need to hear the chatty at the end of